Hello, I was asked to run a demo of Demon Hunters 1705 as a solo adventure, and I would like to think that most of the games that I've written can be played solo. The game, of course, is always enhanced by a group experience, especially when you can chuckle and laugh at the foibles and fallings of your other characters. But the games can be played solo, or the games can be played with the referee also taking part with a character. Now, when you play the game solo, or if you play as a referee also in the party, there's going to be a special knowledge that your character will not have, but you as a player will have. And that's just part of the solo experience. Now, you can either run a solo adventure by saying, I know this information, even though I know it, the character doesn't know it, so I have to discover it. That's one good way. Or you can do it with just randomization. Now, if you have a tabletop setting, you could take like little chips and you could put X's on them, Y's on them if you have two different patterns. You can do a Vegas shuffle on the table and you could scatter them around a map, and that would basically could be used to turn over each chip at a time, and you're looking for the X. Now, there's a little bit of randomness there. Or you can do it by just essentially, as each area of the map is entered, you're going to roll a die. And depending upon how many areas remain on the map, in the case of Demon Hunters, the default campaign, there are 10 areas on the map, so I would roll a 10 die. And if I roll a 1, I have found the area I need to be in. If I roll any other number, I have eliminated that option, and then I go to the next one, and now there's only 9, and then there's only 8, etc. So we're going to probably do that last method. Just to demonstrate it. I'm going to go to each area and then I'm going to roll random. And at the same time, in a game like Demon Hunter, you're actually trying to discover what demon is causing all the mischief in the world. Now, with a referee, he might make a more elaborate subplot, but as a solo play, you're simply just exercising the character and trying to advance your character, exercising the mechanics and trying to advance your character. So I'm going to just start the game by saying I'm a lawman. Now, what is a lawman? Well, the way that's determined is I go up into the rule set, and it's very early on when we're talking about tact. Now, unlike most freestyle games, you don't actually have traits attributed to your character. You're not just overly strong or overly vigorous. What you have is tact. Now, the way tact works in this game, it's sort of an alignment, but it's sort of more than alignment. It's sort of a moral dilemma that you face as you play the game. So the first question I ask when I'm establishing my tact is self-sacrifice necessary for the greater good? Interesting. The second question I want to ask is, does the end justify the means? Is it important to slay the demons no matter how many people might be injured by that? And the third question you should ask is, must we keep from becoming evil ourselves? And how much do you want to stay alive, mission to mission? What good is it to try to kill the demons if you end up dying and then the other demons can enter the world? So there are 3 questions, A, B, and C, and you have to order them in priority. So as I said, I'd like to play a lawman, and a lawman, above all, wants to protect the innocent, A. And do I think that as a secondary objective, would I try to slay all demons or stay alive myself? And the answer to that is I would like to stay alive myself. And then the final answer would be I want to slay demons. So that puts the pattern as an ACB. And when you go down on page 7 of the manual of the rule set, you'll find that an ACB is a lawman. And the swaggering of the lawmen are swaggering of marksmen. Now, what exactly are swaggering? In freestyle games, you have a situation where the character is actually built through play. You can write an elaborate backstory, but for the most part, it's just going to be wasted effort. You should start with a generic blank slate, and it should be filled in by the referee's campaign and by your actions in the game. And the game itself will generate a lot of opportunities for you to develop your character. So you don't need to come in there with a fully formed character. In fact, by doing so, more than likely it's going to be extraneous information that you might have had fun creating, but it's a total waste of time. I know I'm a lawman. And as I adventure, I may discover that I have exceptional talents as a lawman. I might find out that I have a battle cry, or that I'm hungry for battle, or that I'm just overly willful. And as I find these elements about myself, they're called swaggering. It's a word that goes all the way back to Cutlass. In fact, most elements of the freestyle play evolved out of Cutlass. And what did Cutlass evolve out of? Cutlass evolved out of endless play of D&D and a lot of play of solo D&D, where I just was trying to figure out what was working in role-playing at that time and what wasn't working. I know a lot of people have been right now today are screaming about maybe we need a montage type of play where we don't just roll dice over and over and over again until we get a result that eventually kills the monster. That can be quite repetitive and quite dull. Maybe we could have a montage situation when we face these sort of extraneous beasts before we get to the critical contest, and we can just say, well, we got through that one, but we only lost a few hit points. That's a great deal of what Freestyle has been proposing for over 40 years now, is that the combat should take place as events. It shouldn't take place as individual actions. It should take place as situations that occur, highlights, if you will, on the greater action that's coming. It has a very cinematic quality. But before I editorialize too much, I'm going to get back right into the straight play here. So I have the swaggering of the lawmen, and those are listed here. You can see them in the video. And the other thing I want to determine is how do I actually roll dice in this game? Well, to roll dice in this game, I look at things like, let me share my handouts. And I'm actually on two computers here, so you have to forgive me if there's a pregnant pause occasionally. And this first one I want to look at is the master chart for, and it should pop up in a second, I hope. And there it is. That's nice. Is the master chart we use in the game. So as a lawman, if I do any sort of command action, it's nearly impossible. But if I try to persuade somebody to the rightness of my effort, or persuade them to take a position with me, it's only a difficult role. My occult reasoning as tasking is pretty average, as is my investigation and secrecy. Actually, if you want to be a very good investigator in 1705, you're not just a law and order zealot. I should say a law and order constable, but you would pick a pragmatist and to be able to exclude all of the things that are extraneous and get right down to what you need. And from that table, you actually then go through the tax resolution table, and this is used a lot in play, to simply generate events. Did I share that? Let's try it again. And I think it has been shared. And oh, good, it popped up. And that generic chance of success, so for instance, if I was trying to persuade somebody and I need a difficult roll, I would roll based on the difficult result, a 12. Well, that's really tough. But wait a second, read at the top here, make rolls the character has remaining. What are make rolls? Make rolls are a simple concept that in critical times the player might not want to trust his luck, and instead he's just going to say, I want to make the roll. And a make roll is essentially a freebie. Now, I get a D8 make rolls every time I start a mission. So let me roll that. A 3. 3 is a good, sensible number. Now, that puts me in a position that I have 2 to 3 make rolls, so that difficult roll would be 2 dice for a 7. So if I can roll 2 dice and get 7 or better, in that case that 9, I have successfully made the roll, and I've convinced the person that I've been dealing with that my way is the correct way, and maybe you should follow me with that persuasion. But what if I was just investigating the scene and looking over whether or not a demon was responsible for a murder, or if the murder happened just because of a tavern brawl? That might require a different set of skills. I might have to use, instead of persuasion, I might have to use occult reasoning or investigation. All of these things purposely overlap, and it would be up for the solo player as referee and as player to decide which one matches, and then going over to the other table to make that generic chance of success. We'll get back to those in just a bit. So I have my character, I am a lawman, and I know how I can make rolls in the game, and I have the number of make rolls I have, which is 3. Let me mark that someplace because it will decrement as I use them. And as I use them, you'll notice, if I can bring that table back up, that the rolls in the game actually get easier. So if you have lots of make roll, the games are sort of prompting you to use them because it becomes harder to make the rolls. But as you move toward the climax of the adventure against the main demon, the difficulty of rolls will decline as the number of less make rolls you have. Sort of a balance there. And that's a little bit different from other freestyle games like Chronicles of the Outlands, where the player gets a set number of make rolls per adventure based on his level. So, I am a paladin, and I am going to go hunt demons. Yay! So we go over to the campaign map here, and I will start in Boston. You can see my little figure of my my pirate there and the ship. And I am essentially sponsored by patrons, Boston Elite, who are going to send me forth in the Puritan ethic to try to cleanse the world of demons. In this case, because I'm playing solo and there's no referee who's perhaps written a little bit of an adventure behind the scenes, I will just state that there are demons in the world and I'm going to go hunt them. Now, there are 10 locations I could be heading for. The Forest Primeval, the Voodoo Caribbean, the Slavic Europe, fragrant harbors, lower 40, where the whalers are singing shanties all the time, all the way up to the Arctic ice. And as I move to each location, I'm going to again roll a dice to determine whether or not I found the right location. And I will start the game simply by running right into encounters, but not just yet. I have one other thing to make my character. I need to decide on my equipment. Now, Demon Hunter 1705 is one of the first freestyle games that has emphasized the player should have some stuff. Now, a lot of times I find that stuff in games sort of cripples the character in his play. You become your equipment list more than you become, forgive me for going back and forth there, I'm trying to get it on the screen. You tend to become more of an equipment list than an actual character. But here, the equipment represents more of a persona that you're affecting in the game. So I'm going to go through the list here, and I'm going to go, yes, I would be a gentleman who will wear a garish hat. I don't have spectacles. I don't wear a kerchief. That would be too showy for a Puritan. But I do have a writing desk to keep track of all of the different adventures that I'm having and all the observations I make on demons. I carry a snuff box. It's a small bit of indulgence. I have beeswax because I squeeze it all the time because I'm nervous fighting demons. I go down the list. Sturdy boots. Those are always nice to have on the feet, especially if we're going outdoors. A silver flask of rum, just for courage, of course. Trusty rapier. No, I'm the keen knife type with a brace of pistols. And finally, yes, I have my father's pocket watch, and my mother sent me out in the world with a purse of coins. Now, I could actually pick all of those. There are advantages and disadvantages to just saying I will be all of them. But I will start with these, and it sort of defines the type of character I am, very swashbuckler. Now, on the other side of that page, you can see there's a list of instruments. All of those are sort of divine, and they will appear in and out of the campaign as you play. This list is absolutely arbitrary. It's the list that's provided in the game, but the referee is encouraged to sort of specialize this list as he makes each type of demon and each type of adventure. For a solo play, it's a perfectly fine list. It works well in the genre. It works well for 1705. And each of these, for instance, like that tartan kilt at 31, that isn't just me deciding to go freewheeling here and put on a kilt as I walk around. That kilt had significance. Perhaps a Christian martyr who had been killed in it, or perhaps it wiped up the blood of some other demon that was killed by the man who was wearing it. So all of these objects sort of have a mystical quality, and they have certain functions, which as I discover them, I'll go into and explain. It's all of this is defined in the rules on different pages. So it's a wordy text, not as wordy as some role-play games that can go on hundreds and hundreds of pages. As an older guy, I like to have a bigger font. So this, to your younger readers, going to wonder why I had so much white space. But to me, I just rather have that 14-point font that I can look at on the screen. PDF world, boy, I miss books, but those days are going away. And certainly when I used to publish my $2 pamphlets across the table and people used to look at them and go, God, this is crap. Well, give it a read. It was incredibly expensive even to produce anything in paper. But with PDFs, I can put these things on DriveThru RPG. Ooh, there's a sales pitch in there. You can look for my games on DriveThru RPG, and you can buy them for a ridiculously low price of, is it $4.99, $4.95? I'll just call it $5. You can also, if you have any questions about what I'm talking about today, you can go over to www.spacegamer.com, go to the Vox Populi, which is our old-fashioned news group forum. You can post a message in that. Good people will read it every day like myself and will reply. We're not tracking you or trying to hack you or anything else. We're probably not even that sophisticated. So if you have any questions, again, www.spacegamer.com. We got that URL in 2004 when we were running the online version of Space Gamer Magazine. We are one of the last owners of Space Gamer Magazine. I think we held it for the longest time, the trademark and the publishing of it. And Space Gamer Magazine, well, you can wiki that. Okay, we covered make rolls. Wounds. Well, you know, do I have hit points? You don't have hit points in a freestyle game. You essentially have a certain number of wounds. In this case, I'm not a superhero like I am in Heroes 31 or A Good Guys Finish Last. How many wounds do I have? I have one. I am either wounded or I am not wounded. I am either drowned or not drowned. I either have tuberculosis or I don't. It's a binary world out there in the freestyle games usually, and I will be able to survive one vicious wound, but when I adventure and continue adventuring with that vicious wound, if I take a second one, I am gone. Excuse that snap if it messed up your audio. So, accoutrement we've covered, swaggering we've covered, hunting demons. Let's get right into it. Now, if you go to like page 119 of your booklet here, you're going to find that hunting demons is not so much, again, what sort of damage they do back at you. It's what sort of offense do they cause to the human senses. For instance, a hobgoblin, there are 10 types of demons, 10 types of monsters in the game. You can call them whatever you want, but I'm calling them hobgoblins, werewolves, ghosts, etc. Hobgoblin insults sight, sound, and smell. So when you deal with a hobgoblin, first of all, it's intensely ugly. It's something that's hard to focus on because it's unnatural. It will howl and shriek. It'll play pipes and disorganize things, so it insults sound. And it smells horrific. It smells of death. It smells of sweet failed courage. So a hobgoblin incites 3 of the 5 senses. If you went down to a banshee in similar fashion insults sound. It also insults smell, but it does not insult sight, and instead it insults taste, and neither one of those insults touch. And the game rule booklet will define a little bit what these insults can manifest at. A lot of the demons you face are going to be chimeran. They're going to be human forms with animalistic heads, or they're going to be animals that have human features that are just ungodly. And it is a godly-ungodly game that we're playing here. The religious mores of 1705 were strongly the Puritan Christian ethic, and there is evil, and it is caused by demonic forces within the world that must be purged. All right, let's see if we can get into that mode right now. So, hunting demons. In the game, there's also a scapegoat and doubt category. If you're playing solo, you're going to see references to that. You are both the scapegoat and you are both the one that doubts the party. But to a large degree, those should only be used in larger group play. So if we have reference to that, we're going to mute it just a little bit. I talked about the instruments on the other side, and I'm always aware of time. Not too bad. If you're interested in this, you're going to watch it all or watch it in the stages. Let's go into our first encounter. Now, the game is actually generated. Did I open that up? You might have to wait just a bit while I open up my tool. Now, I have a tool to flip cards online. If you don't have a set of cards, you certainly can make a set of cards. And good. Let me shuffle a few times. And I'll bring that deck into my game format here. So, the action in the game is generated with a deck of cards, in this case a tarot deck. There are major tarot, there are 22 of those, and then all the minor cards are divided into 4 suits. If you don't have a tarot deck, actually you buy one rather cheaply online, but if you don't have a tarot, when I first started using a tarot deck to generate adventures back in the 70s, the only place you could get them from was a head shop. So, you know, I would be a 14 or 15-year-old kid going into the local pot store, underground pot store, where they're selling all the water pipes, and I'd be going, you know, can I buy a tarot deck? Hey, watch that, son. That's a pretty powerful device you got there. Well, I'm going to use it to play games. Ooh, man. Okay, well, so, flipping cards from the tarot deck. No, there is not one provided with the game. Person who asked that online. I'm selling a $5 game. It does not include a $12 tarot deck from U.S. Playing Cards. You can also make one. There's plenty of designs online. I'm trying to convince my partner, my writing partner and of games for the past 50 years to make a tarot deck through the website that'll flip for anyone who doesn't have one for the convenience. He's made one as a tool, which we're using right here, but that's neither here nor there. I'm going to go to page 128 encounters, and I'm going to flip the first encounter of the game. So back to my campaign map. And I am in Boston, you can see. And I'm going to head into the Forest Primeval. So I'm going to basically forego the use of the ship that was provided me by my noble patrons, and I am instead going to go into the Forest Primeval, and from there, what happens? Well, I flip a card, and there it is. It is a Knave of Cups. So when I go to the encounters on the Knave of Cups, I'm going to read. I'll grab it and post it, at least at start. And it is inverted as well, which is it means that it's more of a bane. It's more of an uglier card to face. See if I can grab that, see if it posts well. And it says, rumors and suspicions and intrigue aboard. Each player may roll against secrecy to gain a random swaggering. If more succeed than fail, the party also gains a clue point. Excellent. That is a great card to start. No demon fight is generated here yet. So I flip this first card when I'm in the Forest Primeval. Let me roll the all-important roll. Now, I don't have a 10 die handy. I'm going to use a 20 die. If I roll a 1 or a 2 on my 20 die, this is the place of the climax. No, it's not. Okay, I didn't get that lucky. And again, I'm solo playing, so I'm trying to find the climax. But while I was in the Forest Primevals, I hear these rumors and suspicions, probably from native shamans, that I'm going to roll against secrecy. Now, remember that table that I put up here earlier? Of course you do. You have a functioning mind. Lawman rolling against secrecy. Got to pull it all the way over. This is where my always stay on top tarot deck and sometimes work against me. Blah, blah, blah. Lawman. My role is going to be tasking. So I'm going to look at tasking, and my generic chance of success on tasking is going to be, I have 3 make rolls, and on tasking, I'm going to roll 2 dice for a 9. That's a, that's an average roll. I could probably risk it, but getting that clue point right at the start is such a good advantage. I'm going to probably just use one of my 3 make rolls. Why not? Life is short. So I mark the fact that I only have 2 make rolls left. I have made the roll, which means I'm successful at it. I have collected both a swaggering and swaggering at random. Which swaggering did I pick up? I rolled d20 at 12. Let me go over to this page really quick. Closing, character, 20, 10, 11, 12. That's going to be elite goals. Wow. My character now has elite goals. I'll mark that with that silver coin I brought into the game. So I have got my first swaggering and I got my first clue point, and I'm going to just spend it. Now, what the clue points are is, even if you're playing this with a referee, you're essentially moving across the campaign map, doing investigations, talking to old contacts, talking to new contacts, investigating crime scenes, places where demons have visited before, getting the general lay of the land. And with each attempt, you might pick up these clue points, and a clue point will allow you to determine whether or not the demon insults a certain aspect or not. Because once we determine that a demon insults 3 of those 5 senses, we're going to know exactly what type of demon it is, and then we can go to fight it. Until we learn that the demon insults, say, smell, taste, and touch, we cannot actually engage it in combat. It would be too dangerous. It's just one of the mechanics of the game, which actually works really well for solo play, because then you have an objective that you're going to be driving yourself to get. So I'm going to just basically roll. There are 5 senses. I spend a clue point here. If I roll a d8, and I'll re-roll the high numbers, a 4 is perfect. So I know the demon insults taste. So I write that down, so I remember that on my little checklist of the thing. The demon insults taste. Did I spell it correctly? Forgive my clunky arthritic fingers here as I post it. Demon insults taste. So that we know now, and I can always go back in the chat and review my stuff. And I spent my clue point. I can hold on to the clue points because I can actually use them for preparations for other combat leading into the climax, or even in the climax itself if I get an excess number of clue points. But if I ever want to get to the end, I need to collect these clue points and spend them. So I've spent them here. 2 more and I'm at the climax. And I go to the next place. I know on the campaign that I can cross off Forest Primeval. I'll even get fancy here. Let me grab a little drawing tool here, little green one, and go. Okay, I know that's clear. So I'm going to go to the next place. So I go back, I get on my boat, sailing, 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 sing my little shanties, Toraye, and end up in Voodoo Caribbean. And what do I do there? Well, I'm playing solo, so I'm going to roll a D. This time it's 9. There's 9 places left, so I have a 1 in 9 chance of finding. And I'm going to roll my black spot again, my D20. And if I roll a 1 to 18, it's going to be divided by 2. Hopefully you got your math here. So that's going to be a 4. So a 4 is not successful, okay? I would need to roll essentially a 1 or 2 again on the dice. And if I rolled really high, then I would just re-roll it till I get either a 1 or 2 or not. I did not roll a 1 or 2. So I know that the demon is not in the Voodoo Caribbean. I could grab my little marker here again. Let's grab one a little bit more refined than that, and we'll exit off here. I'll erase that one as well, and you know, make a little bit more. You probably can't even see that on YouTube when this gets to 4-point font. Well, haha. No, you can see all this in the rule set. Did I mention how cheap it is? All right. We're going on to after the Voodoo Caribbean. Did I flip a card for encounter there? I did not. So what happens in the Voodoo Caribbean? I go over with my deck and I flip a card and I got myself a 3 of coins. And while I still have plenty of time and I'm not rushing at the end, while I'm enjoying myself, I'll go ahead and post this, and it says that it's a sideline job. So I'm in the Voodoo Caribbean, and somebody says, hey, you got a boat. Maybe you should go hunt some pirates with us. Or maybe you can move some cargo, a vanilla, down to the Curacao. Add a mandatory delivery task to the party. Each region on the map takes at least 1 encounter to traverse. Not all regions connect. Each ref decides for himself the configuration. Does Egypt's mummery slide into the River Indus? You are on a boat. Your call, not the author's. Change your mind every mission. Select 2 locations on the map, even the Arctic. The party must move between those 2 locations. No excuses. The group will be forced at this time to pay some bills. I'm going to just say that I need to move back to the Forest Primeval. I've got a load of sugar from the Caribbean. I'm going to take it back to the Forest Primeval. This essentially is just going to waste my time because I've already gotten rid of the Forest Primeval as an option, so now I have to backtrack. And is there anything else that's related to any sort of role from that? It says the group was forced at times to spend some bills. Maybe the climax will be discovered along the way. Well, in this case, it won't be. I'm playing solo. If so, the task is considered complete with the incident into the epilogue. The ref may be nice and let players add or subtract from accoutrement, but that's typically not what you do at this point. The rules state this occurs at the start only or by direct events of play. We don't roleplay going to the post office and asking Mommy to send more warm socks to you pathetic ninnies. Sorry, I'm old and in need of more lithium. That's directly out of the rule set. I'm very tongue-in-cheek as I write these. It's very conversational. For the most part, I know none of you are playing them and none of you are reading this, so I can put whatever I want hidden within the text for your discovery one day when you will delight or hate it. I had this one guy review the sales pitch for one of my games. He got so incensed. I mean, he just probably a guy that's hugely empathetic, and he just felt for the whole world that I was insulting of cosplay, which still sucks, by the way. And hey, it is what it is, sir. It is what it is. Okay, so I am going back to and waste 1 encounter. So here's my encounter when I get back to Boston, and I got a king of coins. It's actually pretty perfect. And this is another thing about the deck. The deck will surprise you. The sequence of just randomly flipping this stuff just makes so perfect sense because humans are so good at putting sequences together and finding patterns that aren't actually there. And the tarot deck itself, with its fortune-telling nature, just has this quality that I can write these sort of generic, obscure little hints of verbiage, and you'll read into them as if, oh my gosh, this perfectly applies to the situation because, again, we are empathetic and we are pattern-driven creatures. So a king is a historic personage, a friend or foe critical to the plot or curiosity the ref may decide. And it also goes on and says if this happened in the heart of darkness, other events will happen, but it didn't. And so it's also inverted. And inverted says definitely add the NPC to the party. He will absorb 1 wound. We call that playfully the Tony after Anthony Flynn, a gentleman that helps us write these games. But the Tony. So now I picked up a Tony in the party. So I'm going to add, and I'm rather fond of references like these because they sort of insult the popular culture. I'm going to add the father of Alexander Hamilton. So James, the father of Alexander Hamilton, has entered my group, but he's a little bit of a detriment. If he is there with me at the very end, he's going to cause increased def mod or increased target number. And I'll cover a little bit of that when I first get in my first combat. But essentially, those will be penalties of the dice roll, or multiple times I'll need to kill the opponent before the opponent actually stays dead. So I have the father of Alexander Hamilton, James, with me. It's probably why he deserted his son, is because he went off demon hunting. Take that, founding fathers. And so James and I are going out, and he's a little bit of a pill to be with. He's going to be, a little bit of a ninny at the end and cause me a penalty. But while he's here with me, I have gone from 1 wound and then death, from 1 wound to Alexander Hamilton stepping in to take the blow and then dying. So we like guys like James Tony Hamilton, who's coming along to help us here. And I've still got that encounter that I'm going on, and I'll go back to my campaign map, and I've got past the Voodoo Caribbean. I'm just a guy who likes to shake things up. I'm going to bypass the Gold Coast of Spain, and I'll come back to it. I'm going to sail all the way over to Egypt in those lands of mummery. Ooh, maybe I got a hint. Maybe I just want a longer voyage, and I go ahead and flip a card there. Well, wait. I don't want to get ahead of myself. If I roll a 1 or 2 on this black spot die, I have found the location of climax. I still don't know what demon I'm hunting, but did I roll 1 or 2? Close, but no cigar. But now we got 7 more. That was a carnival reference, if you guys have never gone to a carny fair. 7 more of these areas that I need to visit, and it's getting more and more likely that I'm going to roll the die and narrow down my my place. But in the land of mummery, I flip a card for encounter, and I got myself a queen. And that queen would say that the world-changing event, the demons cause more misery. If this event is generated along the river Indus, it is not. Treat instead as an 8. And it goes on, but this is also inverted. And it's as above, plus each player may roll against investigation to gain a random swaggering. If more succeed than fail, you also gain a clue point. Ah, we love this. This is working out so much better than other times when I've tried to play Demon Hunters solo and just found that it's sort of death, and death again. If we look at my table here, and I am a lawman still, I am of TAC ACB. I believe I should protect the innocents and myself before actually killing demons if I have to make a choice. And I have the father of Alexander Hamilton with me, and I am a lawman, and I'm rolling against, did it say investigation? It did. Investigation, lawman, tasking. And should I burn another make roll? Well, let me look at my dice rolls again, and I'll look at my table here, my generic chance of success. And I now am at 2 make rolls. If I burn another one, I go to these really easy rolls, but then I only have 1 left in case I want to avoid a wound. But swaggering is important in the game. All right, I'll burn another make. Now I'll roll it. All right, here it comes. I need to roll tasking 9. 2 dice. I should have burned a make roll. Never listen to your referee. That's what they tell me when I'm refereeing. Okay, well, I failed. I did not pick up swaggering. I did not pick up a clue point. I didn't pick up a clue point. Oh, I should have. Can I have a do-over? Well, I'm playing solo. I could just cheat the... No, we're not going to cheat. We're going to basically say that I made my decision. I'll stand with it. In the mummery, I can cross that off. I can probably remember, but, you know, it's nice to do something tactile. I'm going to cross off the land of mummery because I checked it. And the encounter there basically resulted in the fact that there's a world-changing event. Probably famine is sweeping over, northern Africa. And from my investigation, I could have found out which demon was responsible, but failed my roll. 7. Okay, next event. Now, I cannot sail to the River Indus from here because the Suez Canal has not been built yet. And even if you don't know that, the map looks too small. I'm going to go up here and go to Slavic Europe. Follow along coastline, or I could go through the Black Sea because I had studied geography. And from the Slavic Europe, I'm going to go there and I'm going to roll a die, D20. We've already eliminated 1, 2, 3 of these places, so we're going to ignore some of the numbers. 6, not a 1 or 2. I'm still looking for the place. And some of you might ask, well, what if you get to the very end there and you've never rolled that 1 or 2? Well, in solo play, you can say you never found the demon, you'd start over again. That's really hard on yourself. Or, more than likely, what's going to happen is, as I said, as there's less, I'm really at the point now where I could start rolling D8 looking for a 1, not a D20 looking for a 1 or 2. I think most of you understand what I'm doing here. If you don't, go back to those chips. Just get some cardboard chips or some slips of paper, put them in a cup, pull them out, and or to take a separate deck of cards and take 1 ace and 9 other cards, shuffle them up, and pull 1 until you pull that ace out of the deck. You haven't found the place you need to be. Whatever works for you. I would like to think I'm pretty mathematically minded and I can roll the die and do the statistical calculations on it. But what am I saying? Slavic Europe is not the place when I'm looking for the demon that insults taste, as I'm accompanied by James, the father of Alexander Hamilton, sailing up the coastline here. I will get an encounter. Now, what encounter will that be? I flip a card. 6 of Cups. Inverted. Getting lots of Banes. Hopefully that means I won't have Banes when I actually get into combat here. Open warfare. Don't flatter yourself. The conflict involves you, but is not because of you. But again, it's inverted. As above, plus the region will not be at peace this adventure. Every time the group enters here, fresh from another region, you must repeat the rolls to initially escape. That's ugly. So it's going to make me escape. We're going to finally see a Q&D table, the Q&D evasion table, trying to escape. This is part of the heart of play here. Instead of rolling, again, endless D20, 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 you might as well roll them by the fistful and counting up the number that your THACOs and your initiatives and this one is +1 against that armor. It's, wow, you complain that math isn't a game when you're doing all that. It's an abstract. The Gygax method is beautiful and elegant in many ways, but it's also a bit boring, especially when you've played it to death, as I did in high school. And so the freestyle method essentially is based on events, and they're going to want me to escape. I am stuck in this war. Well, when wasn't a war in Europe in the 1700s, in the 1600s, in the 1500s, in the 1400s, in the 1900s? There seems to always be a war, and the cards, again, are the cards reading my mind? Is this all a mystic event that I'm actually running? Are you trying to go to sleep now and I should crumple a piece of paper? So open warfare, it's not at the Arctic Circle, luckily, but I will use Q&D evasion. Q&D evasion is around 37 in the rule set. Let me go there. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to calculate target number. I'm not going to try to win a battle here. All I'm doing is going to a set table, the Q&D evasion table, and it is on page 45. The enemy defensive modifier is never added to the difficulty of these rolls. That's good to know. I'm going to flip a card, and I'm basically trying to get the result that allows me to escape. Until I get the result, I'm just stuck in the table. So here you go. Here comes the first card of me trying to escape with my vessel out of this war zone, because they're going to try to draft me, help me move supplies. They may want me to be part of a blockade. They may want me to come aboard as a world-famous Captain Rojo adventurer. They might want me to lead a company into slaughter. Oh, the warfare of this period, it's just, people just stood in lines and shot at one another, and they tested their bravery on whether or not I could take that wound. All right, let me flip a card for evasion, and I got myself the Chariot. We sort of, every time we get a major terror, you should gasp a little bit. It's not really ever something you want to see, and you sort of hope it's not bad. So I'm going to toggle instrument 27 with that inverted Chariot. If this event takes place in the River Indus, again, it's something the deck is hinting at, I would have lost a purse of coins. I'm going to go over the equipment page here, just so you can see what I'm dealing with. And it says toggle instrument 27. I have picked up a Rude Fetish. Boom, it gets marked. Now, what is the Rude Fetish? Well, I can go over in the rule book, and I can go up to page 23. And at page 23, I can read instrument number 27, the Rude Fetish, and it says, Rude Fetish, not shown in mixed company or among gentlefolk. The object's origin is enigmatic. Did I get that? Gosh, boy, sometimes it's tough growing up in the United States with our pronunciation. But at any time, I can expend it and get Mystic Fury. So I have this, did I read that correctly, or that was on the wrong one? Yes, the Rude Fetish. So I have essentially this magic item in the game, something that has touched demons or been involved with demons before, that now it is a relic of some sort. It is an instrument of good in my hands. And I may use it. And I'll use it right now just to demonstrate. And I have got this instrument, this Rude Fetish, appears to me as I need to escape this battle. And I will just go ahead and expend it and use it and watch it disappear. And as I watch it disappear, though, I'm now +2 on all my dice. Flipping cards for evasion. Emperor card. When it rains, it freaking pours. Let me go back to table of contents here. And let me go back to Major Terror in Combat, and let me go to the Emperor card. I didn't post the last one, but I'll post this one in the chat for those people who are too poor or too lazy to go to drive-through RPG and buy a $5 booklet. Inverted toggle instrument 24. That's interesting. I used my Rude Fetish, and suddenly it maybe in my hands miraculously converted into a voodoo doll. If the event takes place in Forest Primeval, it doesn't. it would have been a random character receives a vicious wound. I'm playing by myself solo. A random character is random 1. I roll a one-sided die. That is not a good event. But only if he lacks leather gloves. And I look at my accoutrement sheet, and you may notice that I do not wear leather gloves as a character. Maybe I should have brought some. Okay, but I go on to this, and essentially I'm toggling instrument 24. I would like to know what that is. I do have the Fury pip currently, but what does instrument 24, that voodoo doll, give me? It's an exotic object, seemingly harmless, yet comforting when a pin is used to act out frustration toward another party member. That James, the father of Alexander Hamilton, boy, he's always complaining about missing his son. We're demons on here, man. Now, it can activate and cause Mystic Catbird Seat, which would give me an immediate +3 on my dice rolls. But I'm going to save it, because I might need it later when I fight the climax to get that +3 on a single dice roll, or I might decide that I want to hold on to it because all the instruments, like all the accoutrements, like all the swaggering, could appear in the game if we finally flip a card that actually represents something. And here it is, the 3. So I'm going to go back to the table of contents. I'm going to find the evasion table in case all of my dithering and blathering has got you confused. And I'm on page 45, Q&D evasion, quick and dirty evasion, and I go to the 3. When I go to the 3, I look it up and it says... And it's not inverted. It is not a Bane. We love when the cards are not Banes. And I'm going to post in the chat. I don't know if you can read it or not. But and the difficulty here is Observer or Profiteer's Repartee. But I do not have the Observer or Repartee. I am attacked what? I am attacked Lawman. Said that several times. All right. So make yourself laugh almost uncontrollably at some bit of whimsy. Maybe that rude fetish is making me laugh. You simply won't block from your mind. Success to fully escape. Later to return combat as referee's discretion. I am referee and player and solo player, but I would not make me return. I need to get on this table a successful escape. Here it is. So I'm laughing as the guns are blazing, as I'm sailing my ship through the fog of war, but fail and character develops a vulnerability to one of the 5 senses. That would be bad. I do not want to face a demon that I know insults taste with a vulnerability in my character, in my persona, and my very soul that insults taste. I do not want to be that picky eater who the demon would exploit that weakness in. It's a difficulty of 8, advantage observers or profiteer's repartee. Now, if I was a observer or profiteer, I might have in my swaggering P as repartee, but I am a lawman, and P for me is diplomatic. Now, that could probably be a little bit confusing at first glance. You got to do some reading when you want to play the role-play game, or you got to sit and play with somebody who's already done the reading or already wrote the game. And I am not diplomatic P repartee. I do not have the advantage, so I have to roll 2 dice, not 3. If I had the advantage, I would roll 3 dice, but I don't have the advantage, so I roll 2 dice. 2d8, looking for an 8. Do I add 2 because I have the Fury pip? I sure do. Didn't need it. 10 plus 2 is 12. I've exceeded number. I am successful, so I've escaped the battle. This encounter is over. Now, you might go through 5 or 6 of these little flips. You might get 1. If you're playing a large group, of course, everyone needs to escape this table. So eventually I've escaped. I'm going to sit back for a while and chuckle as I watch my fellow players try to get these better results as they're flipping inverted cards like my elder brother always does. And we will move on. We will go back to our campaign map, but the Slavic Europe is sort of blocked. But I do have an out. I'm going to go to the Arctic Circle, and I will traverse all the way over the top of Siberia here and eventually go to the Fragrant Harbor on the other side to avoid it, or I could sail back through the North Atlantic and reach Boston, but I've already checked those off. So, but the Arctic Circle I haven't gone to, and I'm going to go to the Arctic Circle, and I'm going to roll my die again. Now there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, only 6 places left. 1 in 6. There's a 1 in 6. I'm going to roll an 8 die instead. On a 1 in 6, I have found the right place. Is the demon I'm searching for hiding? I forgot the shanties. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1 in 7. That's what I said. 1 in 7 chance. No, 2. It's not at the Arctic Circle. I probably don't want it to be at the Arctic Circle. It's uncomfortable to fight at the Arctic Circle. There's penalties involved with fighting the Arctic Circle. I'm going to cross off the Arctic Circle, and I'm going to say, but what happens there? When I get to the Arctic Circle, did James, the father of Alexander Hamilton, freeze to death? Ace. I'm back on encounters. It's getting. I've already blathered on for 44 minutes. I probably should skip forward. You get the idea. Eventually, I'm going to find out that the demons are someplace. How about if I put them in Old Bombay? I know it. This is pretty abrupt, and that ace is probably a good card. If I went back to hunting demons and the 128 for encounters, page 128. When I go to 128 and I read that ace is it's inverted, but even inverted, I gain a clue point. And I make a persuasion roll to gain a random swaggering. That's always nice. You've seen the tables. I would bring those up and say, well, persuasion, I need a certain roll to make a persuasion roll. And for a lawman, my persuasion is basically difficult. It's an easy roll. And for a dice roll at my level, I only have two. I have two make rolls left. I decided to make that, or try to make that one, and ended up failing. So with 2, a difficult roll would be a 7. I would roll my dice. And 5. I don't have the Fury Pip anymore. That doesn't stay with me. If I was shaken, -2, that could stay with me all the way through encounters. But that Fury Pip was only for that one event. I used that Rude Fetish to just get the +2 in that event. And I missed a roll, but I still got that clue point. I spend it. Let's say I have figured out that the demon insults sound, taste, and touch. That I have found through adventuring the 3 clue points that will get me everything I need to enter the climax. I and the James, the father of Alexander Hamilton, maybe I've even picked up another friend to help me on this adventure. It could be Christian Huygens, a Dutch astronomer. It could be anyone in persona of the period, and the number of the names are listed inside the rules booklet. And you can also use the internet. We love the internet for role-playing gaming, to find pictures and to find information. But I'm going to go into the climax, and I'm going to fight a demon that insults sound, touch, and taste. Sound, touch, and taste. Fighting demons. 119. When I go to 119, sound, touch, and taste, I'm fighting a demon that insults sound, touch, and taste. Sound, taste, and touch. A fae, an elf. Some sort of fairy kind that I need to fight. Well, if anyone's watched True Blood, them fae are unpredictable. Insults sound, touch, and taste and touch, the fae. Now, is one demon different than another? It depends on the events of the deck. There are definitely buried within the sequence of events of combat and other Q&Ds, specific examples that says if the player is fighting the Fae at this point, things get far worse. Or if the player is fighting the Fae this time, this and this happens. Or if the player is fighting the Fae this time, or if the player is fighting a demon that insults taste this time. But we're going to go right into the combat. But before we do that, we need to sort of look at our target number. And that's on page 36. Now, target number is just a fancy way of how many times do I have to be successful on tables before I'm actually done with this. And we have to defeat a significant number of opponents equal to half the group. Half of me is half. We like to deal in whole one numbers, so 1. And then we go through a little list of questions. Does the combat take place in the Fragrant Harbor? No. Combat takes place in the lower 40? No. Arctic Circle? No. Monster insults sound? Yes, I'm at 2. Monster insults sight? Yeah, no. That would be a good +2. We don't want that. Then there's other caveats, like enemy uses poisons or demons summons ferocious animals. Is it underground? And a lot of these extra caveats can occur as you play the game. As you play the game, events will happen. Either the referee has drawn up an elaborate scenario of climax challenges. You can see an example of that both in YouTube when I videotaped the playtest sessions, and also in the game booklet itself when I included that scenario I ran in the playtest sessions right in the game booklet for your edification. But in this case, I'm just going to fight a demon that's 2. Target number 2. Hope actually is springs eternal, and I am hopeful that I can get 2 results of death. Now I'm going to try to get 1 with skirmish and 1 with pitched combat. whenever you fight a demon, you can only get half of its target number by staying away and firing back on it. But I'm going to go down to Skirmish, and I'm going to flip my first card of Skirmish, 50 minutes in, and I get the Wheel of Fortune. That tells me I'm going to shuffle the deck, so I shuffle the deck a few times, and I come up to 9 of coins. Skirmish, 9 of coins. Bane. I will post it in the chat, but this will be the only time I'll do that just to save time. You'll have to trust me that I'm not cheating as I read the verbiage. But this one says that fret and oddly obsess about the cost of shot. Well, it is expensive. The losses of men, materials, and morale. Now, again, this sort of emphasizes the fact that I'm not just going in there alone. I have brought, sailors with me from the boat, Marines from the boat, other interested parties. I've got the father of Alexander Hamilton with me as I enter into these things. So it's not a game that's focused on the individual like most role-playing games. You are actually representing sort of a conglomerate of forces. The events will come back and affect you personally your character, but there is a global aspect to this. So I'm fretting over the fact that the guys I'm with are just randomly shooting. Hold your fire, men. There's going to be a time to be shooting at this demon fae, and now is not the time. Fail and take next action on Overwhelm. That would be the result of failing these dice. I do not want that to happen. Overwhelm is a bad thing in the game. Flare. If your character is tact, profiteer, or paladin, all players of those tact still in skirmish roll immediately the same event for result. That's a bad event, but I am not tact, profiteer, and paladin. And when it talks about all the other players when I'm playing solo, all the other players are me, myself, and I, and the devils below and the angels above. So Jeopardy flew, facing demon vampire. Ooh, no, I don't face a demon vampire. So if I did, by flipping this Bane card, it would mean that a fail result would result in a vicious wound. And how many of those do I get? 2, plus the father of Alexander Hamilton. But I need a difficulty of 7 tact profiteer. So the long and the short of it is I need to roll 2 dice and get a 7. Do I add 2 for the Fury Pip? No, that was the last battle. Should I use my voodoo doll to get +3 to my dice? Well, it's a 7. I mean, come on, a 7. How can I miss a roll of a 7? Not even a gamer, I miss a roll of 7. 2 dice or 7, tact profiteer. I'm not a profiteer, so I don't have the advantage. If I had the advantage, if it was tact lawman, if I had the tact of lawman advantage, I would roll 3 dice, but I'm only rolling 2. 15. Booyah. Okay, so I rolled a 15, so the fail and take next action is overwhelm. I have avoided that, but I certainly did not do anything to help my cause. The target number is still 2, and I do not have the Fury Pip, and I do not have a lot of things. Next encounter, still in skirmish. 5. A 5, and again, to save time, I won't post them, I'll just read them. Break the enemy focus. Be where he least expects. Success for catbird seat. That's +3 to the dice. Alternatively, upon success, move to pitch melee. Regardless, gain the instrument 33, the Spaniard's helm. So here we are fighting in Bombay, let's say, and I find a Spaniard's helm on the ground that has mystic qualities. Probably the last guy that tried to kill this demon. I take his helmet, I put it on my head, because having those instruments is important in play. Regardless, game instrument Spaniard's helm, if already in the party, expend it to immediately win this battle, except during the climax. Action fluke, instrument 30, the ceramic jar of jelly reduces the target number. I don't have the ceramic jar of royal jelly. But it is a difficulty 11. Pragmatist or zealot's flamboyant moves. I do not have that swaggering, because I am not a pragmatist or a zealot, and I cannot pick it up. And this is another way in the game that you would improve yourself. If that had said, for instance, a lawman's swaggering of 8, swaggering of D, a lawman's charismatic style as the advantage, I don't have that currently, but by rolling the dice, the difficulty of 11, I would then add it like I have elite goals. So by playing the game, you're slowly also improving your character's ability in future battles. But as we move on to this, I'm going to basically look and say that I want to check on that Spaniard's helm. And so I go up to 23. I don't want to die with an idol in my pocket. It is 23 was the 33, forgive me. 33 is the Spaniard's helmet, a bonnet of metal to protect the head. This one even fashionably fits down over your man's hat, because I am wearing a garish hat, and scarf, or whatever else he dons. A mystic guidance. Not sure right off what mystic guidance is. I actually have to read the rules. What? You think I wrote this? Well, I did, but blesses the character with calmness and insight that allows prediction of the enemy actions. It's a bit more than I think they mean to kill us. The enemy loses any defensive modifier and the object is spent. Well, that's nice. But it doesn't have a defensive modifier. I didn't give him one. but I still have the Spaniard's helm on my head. I go back to the combat. And what did I say? It was around 37 and 37 skirmish. Yeah, pretty close. And I am still on the 5 after I checked that. And the 5, I still haven't made my roll yet. I need to roll an 11 to get the catbird seat. 2 dice, 11, catbird seat. Didn't get it. Next encounter. Judgment. Judgment. We hate the Major Tarot with a passion. Or I should say, we don't hate them, we dread them. It could be good. I'm sort of filling time. I hate dead air. As I I've used the word essentially a lot too. Forgive me for that. It's another word. It's a nonsense word. Judgment. Judgment is essentially toggle accoutrement 18. Judgment. It says toggle accoutrement 18. It's inverted. So we're going to toggle instrument 38. I picked up Blessed Missionary Oil. Another thing I picked up in the battle. This is actually going good for me. But it says if the event takes place in the Fragrant Harbors, a random character receives a vicious wound if he lacks accoutrement 19, the pocket watch. Look at that. I guess you can't see it because I'm not on that page. Hey, look at that. Who has a pocket watch? Rojo has a pocket watch. Does Rojo have a pocket watch? Rojo has a pocket watch. Does Rojo ignore that automatic take wound because he has a pocket watch from that judgment card? He does. So now you're thinking, well, why wouldn't you take all of that? I'll get to that in just a second when I go through Hysteria. But I picked up the Blessed Missionary Oil, and the Blessed Missionary Oil would give me what advantage? It's Blessed Missionary Oil number 38. 38 gives me advantage of Mystic Fortune. Mystic Fortune activation gives all players 3 chances to make the next roll. Yeah, why don't I burn that? Phew. So I use my Blessed Missionary Oil. I throw it in the face of the Fae. The Fae is fighting back. The Fae is hating me, but I still haven't reduced his target number. I have not gotten a card for skirmish. The Major Tarot are just going to be in action. And a queen in skirmish says, tire them, exhaust their will, reduce the target number, success to reduce the target number. Alternatively, upon success, move to pitched. Maybe I should move there. I'll get another chance. Regardless, lose accoutrement 10, my steady at 30 boots. That bastard. Did he seduce me to take my boots off, or did he just paw and rip and tear, and suddenly the soles of my boots have come off? So I've taken that off. I lost my sturdy boots. And Jeopardy fluke if I fought a succubus. It's not a succubus, it's a fae. Succubus taking my boots. Whew, this game. Maybe I should put a Tor rating on it. Difficulty a 9. Observer or Profiteer's Masterful Defense. I'm not one of those. I'm not Observer or Profiteer. But I get to roll 3 times. 3 times looking for a 9 to reduce the target number. And I made it on the first one. And the second one. And the third one. Haha, now I'm just showing off. Actually, I'm wasting my dice rolls. Do you believe that as a roll, as a gamer? Do you feel that you wasted those dice rolls? I don't know. Most gamers feel like they wasted that dice roll. Mathematically and statistically, you're not actually wasting that dice roll, and it is just, light flashing on a screen in front of me. And you didn't see any of that because I noticed as I looked over on my record machine that I left the card in the way. But yes, I rolled successfully that 9 on the first roll. And I rolled, and I needed a 9, and I got a 9, so I have reduced the target number. Target number was 2, it's now 1. I flip a card. Ace! Oh, it doesn't get any better than that. But I cannot kill the monster from skirmish. I have to get into pitched. But it is inverted 8. A gaze in wide wonder as the enemy walks blindly, calmly into your ambush. Success to reduce the target number. Alternatively, I have not been drinking. It is barely 2 o'clock. Upon success, move to pitch melee, but fail in test hysteria. All right, monkey dust. I failed this roll. Just so I want to test hysteria. I want to show that action in the game. I regardless gain a clue point. That clue point probably right now is wasted. I could maybe as referee, maybe in solo play, give myself a chance to plan as if I had gone action. I'm not going to belabor this. You basically, if you decide to Get this game and play this game. You're going to have questions, and you're going to make decisions, and your decisions are always going to be right. Now, don't let anyone tell you, there ain't no rules lawyer out there, okay? There is no bad decisions. You're going to make mistakes when you play role-play games, and you're going to live with it. It is soccer. Two men collide, they both fall down, and the referee just goes, play on, okay? That's what it is here. You will make decisions, and you will start to establish house rules, especially if you play with other players, and you will interpret things wrong, so that if you go out and bring a new player in or play with a different group, you'll go, that's not the way I used to use the +1 spear. I was always double damage when thrown in my game, you know, but people would go, well, that's not rules. No, just stop it. People want to have fun. Want to become doctorate degree in Demon Hunter 1905. You do your best guess when you play these things and always try to have fun. But Hysteria. Hey, speaking of fun, there's this little thing in the game called Hysteria. And what is Hysteria? Well, hysteria occurs when you make bad rolls like I just did to demonstrate a game mechanic. And hysteria, we're going to count the accoutrement and instruments and add that number together. And I've got accoutrement and instruments of 1. Let's see if I can, you just have to trust me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 11. I have 11, 2 instruments, and 9 accoutrement. The more I hang on to material wealth and material earthly possessions, the more chance the demons are going to win. Because the demons are exploiting all of these human foibles. 9, 10, 11. I need to make a tasking roll. I'm by myself. There's no calming force to apply occult reasoning. I don't have another player around the table who could possibly make an occult reasoning roll to make my roll not tasking but difficult. I need to roll that tasking roll. And a tasking roll, do I need to consult this chart? No, it has nothing to do with this chart. I know that it's a tasking roll. It's this chart here, tasking roll. Tasking roll, and I go, tasking roll for me, I have 2 make rolls. I need a 9. Well, guess what? I only got 1 make roll now. Now, can I use make rolls for hysteria? These are the sort of questions that come up. Remember I said, wow, you're going to make mistakes? I'm going to check really quick. There's a nagging suspicion I have about hysteria 29. And as I go to 29 and look at my hysteria, success, the harder you cling to things, it becomes success. Army is that because this event would be too easy to simply apply with make rolls, the action does not just use 1 make roll, but consumes all make rolls. This applies to the calming force as well. Well, James, the father of Alexander Hamilton, does not. Well, there was that defensive modifier I should add into the game. Again, I made a mistake. Play on. So the action would use all my make rolls. Now, do I want to try to roll a 9 on 2 dice and go hysterical in this battle? And what being hysterical does is it can change your persona of life. I am a lawman to the core. But because I have met a demon fae, been seduced, had my boots ripped off by the thing, I was screaming for Alexander Hamilton to come and help me. And because of all these events that had happened as I fought a demon for the first time in my life, I might change and decide that from here on out, I'm a paladin, always fighting demons. Instead of my major priority would be protecting the innocent, my major priority might be kill the demons. I may become a zealot. I may become an opportunist and say, wow, if these demons actually exist, if the supernatural exists in the world, there's no hope for anyone. I might as well enjoy myself while I'm here. And that's what happens with hysteria. I'm hysterical. You actually change persona, but I like what I am, because the other thing about changing persona is I have picked up, as my character has picked up, clear a little bit of the chaff off the screen here. I have picked up 1 swaggering, not a huge loss of investment, but I'm rather proud of the fact that I have the swaggering of elite goals. So I will go ahead and just burn all my make rolls. I'm going to lose 2 make rolls, and I'm going to make my hysteria roll. Let me find out if I made the right decision here. You ever do that as a gamer? Roll 11. I didn't make the right decision here. All right, let me roll it again for the home audience. Did I make the right decision here? 5. I made the right decision here. Of course I made the right decision here. You may have a little bit of a loss of the roll because of the video. It is what it is. All right, so maybe as me, I mumble in the background. Wow, I'm acting like I'm having way too much fun here. I guess that's a good sales pitch. I've ignobles. Gosh, I keep doing this because ignobles are checked as a group in Demon Hunter. I'm a group of 1, but I still would check ignobles. Let me go to page 80 of the rules here and make sure that I don't forget a major portion of the game. This is where a character sheet helps, and yet I didn't really include one in Demon Hunter because I thought it was so one and done as a game. Thank you, Mike, for all the work you've done on creating character sheets for the different games. If you go to ignobles on page 80, party advancement, ignobles, you're going to find that there are certain deeds that you need to do in the game in order to advance in level. Now, I don't need to explain what a level is. If you're playing a role-play game, you certainly have played either online computer game or tabletop game with levels. It is a Gygax method of increasing in levels, increasing in hit points, and having better chances to hit and better gear. Beautiful system, Gary. Thank you. But the idea of experience points, especially experience points based on gold, was so abstract and so incomprehensible to me back in the 70s that I started to think about, well, what am I actually doing in role play? Well, I'm doing things like heroics, and I'm doing things like acquiring knowledge, and I'm adventuring, and I'm facing dilemmas and setbacks. And if I instead decide that what I had to do was check 9 ignoble deeds, and the term ignoble comes from Cutlass, the first game I wrote, a pirate game, of course, you're not doing noble deeds, you're doing ignoble deeds, and it just stuck in. Even if you're playing a superhero game where you're all sugar and spice and everything nice, you're looking for ignoble deeds because it is a jargon term now to say that it is achievement-driven advancement. My game partner hates that term, but it sort of fits. You advance in freestyle play not through the accumulation of experience points, mostly through killing, being a murder hobo and killing people and taking their treasure, but instead you advance by doing ignoble deeds, by doing specific adventuring actions like defending justice or obtaining some sort of notoriety. Certainly acquiring, forgive me, a friend, the father of Alexander Hamilton, that would be a certain sort of improvement. It would also be involving the Vox Populi, other elements of the campaign. And so I could have checked off Vox Populi. I believe I went to the Arctic Circle. That would be a tale-worthy event, something that would be considered adventure. I delivered cargo of sugar between the Caribbean and Boston while I was playing here. Was that risk-taking? No, but risk-taking certainly was surviving that naval battle in the Baltic Sea, and which I was laughing hysterically as I tried to get away. As I do 9 of these deeds and check off 9 of these deeds, I advance in level. And by advancing in level at the end of an adventure where I finally check my 9th ignoble deed during the adventure, perhaps I have 8 of these, and yet fighting this demon at the end is the pulsing action or the battling evil that I makes that 9th check of these 14 categories, I have advanced a level. Forgive me for the tap on the table. I'm sure that's going to sound like a rocket going off if you have your volume up, especially with me as a mumbler. Stop your mumbling. You then, after the battle, would do Life Goes On. You advance by events again in the game. We're trying more and more with our game systems to just make this total hobgoblin tale of letting the cards and the dice push you along in a roller coaster ride. And if you go over to page 89 of the rule set, you're going to find this table that starts, and it starts as Advanced Rules for Polite Society. Q&D, life goes on. And I'm a lawman, and I would start at event number 10. A 10. I return home to find the place is a mess in my absence. I need to restore some order and clamp down on all this hooliganism. Hooliganism. Actually, I'm not very good with a British accent. I'm not very good at accents at all. I sometimes refer to one or fall into one as an old Saturday Night Live sketch or some other thing that I've heard. But and I'm not a big fan of that sort of play anyway, as people know. Yeah, it's amusing. I don't mind doing it for amusement, but if anyone were to sit around a role-play table and want me to be in character constantly, I would say, go fug thyself. But at 10, I'm going to return home to find a place is a mess. I'm going to restore order and clamp down on all the hooligans. Lock any known swagger as glorious. Wonderful. That Elite Inhale I would mark as glorious. Maybe I'd put 2 coins next to it on my virtual world, or maybe I'd put a big check mark next to it on my character sheet if I'm playing tabletop. And if you're playing virtual, you might as well have some paper with you as well, because it speeds things up. Then I would roll as my next event D8 plus 10. So I roll a D8, I'd add 10. I hope you kept up with what I did. I just switched. I sort of hand waved the fact that I didn't die against the Fae, and I'm in the end of the epilogue. Now, a 1, so I rolled an 11. I befriend the father of Ethan Hale. Of Ethan Allen. So not only do I have a friend of the father of Alexander Hamilton, I have the father of Ethan Allen in sharing wine with him. And the ref decides this man is may decide this is a man of quality. And yes, he is a man of quality. He froths when he speaks of self-rule, but his heated wine is a delight. And I'm going to go to event 55. And I'm going to while my way through this long choose-your-own adventure. And in a lot of ways, freestyle play is a choose-your-own-adventure. I say that both cringing and also smiling. They aren't as good, perhaps, as choose-your-own-adventures, but they aren't as restricted as choose-your-own-adventures. They're sort of choose-your-own-adventures, but there's a lot of dice rolls and deviance in it. There's a lot of peek ahead and go, well, maybe I made a dice roll and didn't go in that part of the adventure. But you can while your way through this. In fact, if you're going to play solo, you may want to play in total by rolling on Q&D Life Goes On and give yourself a little bit of background and a little bit more tools, let's say, of swaggering and of contacts before you jump right in and try to flip the deck for encounters, find out which demon you're fighting, and then try to kill that thing cold and by yourself, and cold and ill-equipped and by yourself. And if you go through this table, they're actually fun to while your way. I remember playing Traveler, and the only thing fun about Traveler was making a character and dying as you made your character. And the actual gameplay was sort of laborious and undefined, especially since there was no experience system and no real purpose to play. But if you wind your way through Q&D Life Goes On and get yourself a little bit more, should we call it background? But it's not self-created background. It's game-related background. You would find the fact that, for instance, when you went from Ethan Hale to that Event 55, where you expanded the provinces of Carolina and had a settler life that was probably terrible, or you eventually had to abandon your property and your family, or that you were successful. You were hired into the colonial militia. And all these events can happen in Q&D Life Go On. In between the game, you're sort of taking a respite from demon hunting. Who could do that 24/7? And the other players are out, if you're playing a group, out doing the same thing, and they all come back together. And the Q&D Life Goes On will sort of steer you back into why you gave up for a moment the life of a lawman demon hunter to become a lawman of just the frontier, and why you suddenly are pulled back into the next adventure. Well, I've talked for way long. I try to keep these under an hour, and even an hour. I mean, how many people ever watch a YouTube hour show? And who will watch this? I don't know. Fred will watch it. Fred's a great guy. And if you want to post questions in the comments section, sure you can. And you can critique me in the comments section. Hit that like button. Hit that hate button. We want to see that hate button go up as well. No, give me that likes. I mean, if you get a certain number of likes, certain number of subscribers, fans, what is it called? Hell, I don't even know. YouTube, what a joke. But if you get a certain number of those, I may make a few pennies every time I post this video. Or if I get gaga numbers, well, there'll be people outside my house that I don't like, so I don't want them gaga numbers. If you were the person who wanted this video, hopefully it was informative. Forgive my attitude if it offends. If it offends, I also say, yeah, don't game with me then. But the rule sets, I'm really actually pretty proud of Demon Hunter 1705. Each game has a little bit more nuance and has a little bit more perfection. I'm striving. I'm really looking forward to make a version of this rules for Vietnam and Kipling's Afghan struggles. And I just think as a time travel sort of experience of fighting demons, I think it's pretty close. And a lot of good freestyle functions in there. A lot of good fundamentals of freestyle you can learn through a solo play of Demon Hunters. And then when you finally get your feet wet, jump 2 feet into Chronicles of the Outlands or Barony, or jump in Fantasy, or jump right into a game like Good Guys or Hero 31, or take the boldest step of all and pick up a copy of Era 10 and see if you can be a space marine in the far future where your suit is absolutely incomprehensible to you, yet you're expected to save from humanity. There's much to enjoy about Demon Hunters 1705. I actually wrote it maybe as just a throwaway game, and I don't say that with any sort of pejorative. It's a game that you should not think that you're going to find players for and play continuously. Horror is a very specialized genre. The majority of people want to just play a nice, Tolkien-esque sort of D&D campaign, and all power to them. Right now, we're currently still playing our Cutlass campaign online every Wednesday. I stopped posting the videos. If you would like those to return, come over to spacegamer.com, go into that Vox Populi message board. Join us, join us 40 or so grognards who are still having a lot of fun rediscovering childhood, rediscovering our teen years. I retired a couple of years ago, so I have a little bit more time on my hand. I'm enjoying life a little bit more now that I'm not working for the boss, and I can go back and relive these fantasies in multiple genres of roleplay. So thank you very much for your interest, and have a great day.